Hi everyone. We're continuing our discussion of quadratic equations. In this next video, we're going to talk about solving quadratic equations by graphing and estimating their solutions. Do you like the dolphins? I kind of like those. What are the solutions of a quadratic function? Well, you can see down here that quadratic equations can have one real solution, two real solutions, or no real solutions at all. And it's probably easiest to see in terms of the graph. So when you see something here, remember the shape of a parabola. If the vertex lies on the x-axis, right, it's said to have a root, one solution, one real solution. It's actually a double solution. So for instance, on this one, it might be x plus 2 quantity squared is what that looks like. Because at x is negative 2, there are two real roots there. It's like a perfect square. Two real solutions would be just like you had x plus 2 and x minus 2. Like you would have two solutions that make that true. So it crosses the x-axis in two places. No real solution means that the graph does not cross the x-axis, something like this, something not factorable, so that the solutions to this are not real. So solutions are also called roots, zeros, solutions, x-intercepts. All those mean the same thing. They are the solutions of a quadratic equation. So one way that you can solve a quadratic equation by graphing is to graph it by hand. We've already learned how to do that in the last one, especially if it is written in standard form like this one is. We have A is 1, B is 6, and C is 8. And so we have negative B over 2A, so the first coordinate is negative 3, right? So as long as we have 2 points, we have the vertex and then we have the y-intercept, we can approximate a solution. But that gives us the vertex. That doesn't actually give us what we need to solve it by graphing. So finding the vertex doesn't solve it. We need to find the roots. So one thing that you can do, and I'm just erasing this because this is not the right approach, is to put it in your calculator. And so we would do, you would go to y equals, and you would put this in your calculator. And once you have it in your calculator, then you would graph it. And I would probably do a zoom 6. That puts it back into standard so that you can see it. Usually that's it. And then you're looking for the x-intercepts. And on your calculator, that would be the zeros. So when we get into class, we'll run through this with a calculator in our hand. But basically, we're going to do second calc and then pick zeros. And so I will show you. Most people do not graph these by hand. You could. You could put that in there and you could find different points and do it all by hand, but it seems very, very long. So that's one thing the skill that we're going to work on when we get to class. Now, here's another example of graphing by hand. And I'll move this over so I get a little bit of room, but basically what you're going to do, and we're going to show this, is algebraically. You're going to put it in a calculator. But if we had something that looked like this, we would factor. And so I'm giving you a preview of the next video, basically. So this is going to be minus 2, minus 2. And so when I multiply that out, I get x squared minus 2 is minus 4, plus 4 is this. So this is going to actually be a double root. You'll remember that because it's a quadratic function, x squared, it's going to have two solutions. Now it might be a double root, but it'll be a solution. So this is the graph that's moved to the right too. So it will be here. So by graphing it looks like this. So there'll be one root and it will be at x equals 2. And so that's x will be 2. And so that solves it by graphing. So I graphed it, you can see it graphically, but actually we solved it by factoring. Okay, so here is a problem that you could use. It's using a quadratic equation to find two numbers. All right, so let's set up what it says. The two numbers have a sum of 7. So x plus y is equal to 7. They also have a product of 14. But neither one of these look like quadratic equations. There's nothing to the second power. So we're going to use the substitution method because they both have to be true. So I'm going to solve for y. Y is going to be negative x plus 7. And then I'm going to substitute for the y in the other problem. So I have x times y, and y is negative x plus 7, which gives me negative x squared plus 7x equals 14. Now I want the x squared to be positive, so I would move it to the other side. So I would have 0 equals x squared minus 7x plus 14. So that's my quadratic. So what we're going to do on the calculator is that we are going to put that into y equals and graph it. And then you're going to do, you're going to put it in y equals, you're going to graph it, then you're going to do second calc and pick zeros. And then once you get to that screen, then you are going to move your cursor using the right and left arrows. And so, for instance, this one is going to be positive, so it's going to look something like this. And I don't know where it is, right? So you're going to move your cursor till it's above and hit enter. Then below, hit enter. Then guess, and it's going to give you that 0. And you'll write it down. Then you're going to come over here to this other side, and you're going to put your cursor here, hit enter. Then here, hit enter. And then guess, and it's going to give you this 0. You will have two numbers because this is quadratic, two numbers, and they are going to be real numbers. So we'll try that when we get to class. Try it if you can, if you have access to a calculator. Most of you are watching this before class anyway. Pick up a calculator and try it, and we'll finish this up in class. See you then.